Welcome to Diet Rebellion, the podcast that's here to help you break free from the chains of dieting and finally take control of your health, strength, and confidence. I'm Joe Hoye, your host and the founder of Diet Detox. After transforming the lives of thousands of women over 40 who have been trapped in the endless diet cycle, I'm here to show you a new way. One that focuses on eating for your body's needs, restoring your metabolism, and rebuilding your strength for life. Get ready for real, no bullshit conversations, expert insights, and actionable strategies that empower you to live diet-free and thrive. It's time to stop restricting and start rebuilding. Join the rebellion. Your journey starts now. Hello and welcome back to Menopause from a Man. Today's episode is with Deborah Moore. Deborah is a 54-year-old healthy habits coach guiding midlife women towards better health through education, inspiration, and empowerment. Through her Instagram account, seminars, and as we learned today, soon to be released online courses. She gives women the practical tools to manage their nutrition, strength, fitness, and overall health, including that tough menopausal process. An ex-Ironman athlete and coach, former marketing executive turned executive coach, Deborah reinvented herself at age 50 when she discovered CrossFit and the barbell. Now a master's CrossFit athlete, she qualified for the quarterfinals in the CrossFit Games in 2022 and 2024. And if you don't know, that is an amazing feat. She credits her physical, emotional, and overall self-confidence turnaround to the strength she built through CrossFit. In today's episode, we talk about our differing opinions on exercise for women 40 plus. We actually find some middle ground on this, and I think you're gonna find it really interesting. And we dive deep on mindset and why every single person needs mindset training. Today's episode is a little bit different than most. I really enjoyed today's conversation just because of the path we went down, and I think you're going to do the same. So buckle up and enjoy the show. Deborah Moore, welcome to Menopause from a Man. How are you this morning? Actually, afternoon.
Afternoon, yes, doing very well, very well. It's a day off, it's recovery day today, so, that's always nice. Or you're ready for one when you feel good on recovery day. You're looking forward to it.
So, okay, let's just dive right into it. You're a CrossFitter. Thursdays, generally a recovery day. So when I did it, it was like Thursdays and Sundays were either my
Correct.
off days or active recovery. Same for you?
Yes, it is. And I make the decision on the day whether I'm going to do active recovery or if I'm going to just, chill and go for a walk. I always do. I always move, but it's a decision on the day based on how my body feels.
This is a good place to go. We're not wasting any time. So I think that some people would define walking as active recovery. And it sounds to me like you're not using that definition.
For me personally, I think for some people it absolutely is. For me personally, I come from a background of endurance sports. So I was an Ironman triathlete all through my late 20s and 30s. And so I think I still have a bit of that kind of volume or going hard mentality. So for me, a walk is for me a walk is movement.
Mm-hmm.
It's that neat thing, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Let's keep our bodies moving. Active recovery for me would be getting my heart rate up a little bit, maybe into that zone 2, depending on how I feel, maybe even inching into zone 3, but for short periods of time, very short periods of time, like 30 seconds,
Okay.
Spin the legs out, 30 seconds off, and then a lot of mobility and core work. That's what I tend to do on my active recovery days. Yeah.
Okay. I like that. So you spend some time probably on like a C2 bike, just steady state cardio and bump it up every 5 minutes or so.
I see how I feel. I've become really good at listening to my body over the years, but I don't see it as interval work. It's more for me, when I take the effort up a little bit, it helps me to flush my legs out.
Mm-hmm.
If I just go kind of, that kind of super easy, I'm just going to let the bike take my legs around. Well, not that the C2 bike does that, but I feel like it doesn't achieve what I need it to achieve. So for me, active recovery really is that. It's trying to help my body recover through some sort of effort.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that you listen to your body because a lot of people don't. I personally was somebody that did not, and still sometimes I struggle with it. Have you always been good at that, or is that something you learned the hard way? What happened there?
No, never. Terrible. I mean, I if you've ever known our CrossFitters are probably really bad at this too. But triathletes, Ironman triathletes, in the era that I was growing up or competing in, it was about volume. It was volume and volume and what my coach would often say, junk miles. But you couldn't get it out of your head that to be an Ironman triathlete, you had to cycle for miles and miles and miles, and you had to run for miles, and you had to swim for miles.
Can you define this for me, just for the audience? Like,
The
what are you
the
calling
Ironman?
volume? And no,
Oh,
volume
volume.
and junk. I know what it is, but I think a lot of the listeners won't.
Yeah, so it's the whole concept of quality over quantity. So instead of saying, okay, I've got to do, I've got to run 15K today. I got to run 15K. That's what I would have in my head, that number of 15. And it didn't matter if it was like the worst form, running form was bad. I struggled the whole way. I would push myself to complete the 15K because I told myself, well, I need to be able to push myself on the day. So, for me, it was an 11+ hour race. I need to push through these hard times, but I wouldn't listen to my body telling me that this is not quality training. You're not getting the adaptation that you're supposed to get from what you're doing because your form is off. Your footfall isn't quite right. Your hips you're going to end up with hip problems because you're not running well, and your body's trying to tell you that you actually need to stop at 7K, and that's good. So that's what I meant by volume, or junk miles. So volume can be really good, and it's necessary for Ironman to some extent. You got to put in the miles, but you have to really get to know your body well in order to know when you can push through versus when you need to step back. And I did not learn that until, I would say probably only about 3 or 4 years ago, a couple of years into CrossFit.
Okay, I love this. So what I'm thinking, knowing my audience, is we're gonna have some ladies that are very similar to you, and they don't listen to their body, they over exercise or overdo it. But we're also gonna have ladies that hear this, and look, ladies, I'm calling you out because my job as a coach is to call you out sometimes. I think they're gonna hear this and tell themselves they're doing too much when they're still not actually doing enough. So
Right.
how can we define this so that somebody knows, okay, I am doing too much, or you know what, I'm actually not even reaching this point that Deborah and Joe are talking about. Can you put words to this?
I think that it really is about a bit of experience, number one. Going through the years, for me, the years of training and exercising and pushing your body in different ways. But most importantly, it's about being mindful of the response that your body gives. There's a ex-Canadian national rugby player who used to go to my CrossFit gym, and he said, and I don't remember the exact words, but he said, you have to understand the difference between an ah pain and an ooh pain. And I don't remember which one was which, but one of them is, this is sore, but it's, DOMS or that adaptation soreness. And the other is, this isn't good.
I've hurt myself.
And yes, I've hurt myself, or I'm too tired, like I need a break. I'm overtrained or whatever it is. But I think that really comes with mindfulness of learning to understand your body and the signals that it's given you. And that comes with time and experience. But I think there aren't enough people who are in tune with their bodies. There's a lot of, oh, it's a pain, I'm scared, I'm going to stop. I'm a bit tired, I'm scared, I'm going to stop. Instead of testing and letting go of the fear and just being curious about it. Okay, I'm tired. Does that mean I need to stop? I don't know. Let me go an extra kilometer, or let me try and finish this workout and see what happens. And then you kind of, it sucks and actually you did need to stop, but that for next time.
I like this. And I think you're completely right on the experience factor, right? Because if you've never experienced either of these feelings, you're not going to know, I like this word that you use, the ah or the ooh, pain, right? Like so to use myself as an example, because that's all I have, like I'm in a little bodybuilding phase right now. And so if I'm doing bicep curls and I feel this wicked big pump, like the good discomfort that we feel would be this burning sensation all across my entire bicep. The bad feeling that I might get is from one end or another, like either tendon, like that's not good. So you have to think about, what is it you're doing? What muscles are you working? Do you feel it in the muscle, or do you feel it just at one end of it? Or did you just feel a pop, right? Like that's when you listen to your body. But I think you're right. It's going to take experience. And unfortunately, you might have to have one little ooh, which is the bad pain, to know.
Right. And people do ask me that question a lot about, how do you deal with injuries? They always ask me, how do you not get injured? And I say to them, I do. I have had all sorts of injuries, including a dislocated shoulder. And they say, well, how do you deal with that? And I say, well, you adapt. and you figure out ways around it, and you figure out why that happened in the first place, and you try and fix that. But you don't stop and avoid, whatever it is, everything, just because you are fearful of getting injured. Some people don't even start because they're scared of getting injured, which may be the case actually with your clients, many of them.
And let's look at this. What's the other side of that, right? Let's say that somebody is listening and they're like, you know what? I don't want to get hurt, like Deborah's saying, or to get hurt, like Joe's saying. I don't want to get hurt now. And that hurt right now might last a week and have you out of the gym. But if you don't do any of this, when you get hurt later, you're going to be down for 3 months, 12 months, maybe even the rest of your life.
Exactly.
So
I think it really is one of the biggest things that I try and battle against with my posts and the things that I put out there is this flip side. What is the flip side of any action that you're thinking of taking? What is the flip side of not taking it? Because people are fearful, especially in my age group. We're told that we're getting more fragile. We're told that we need to take it easier. Things are happening to our bodies that we don't understand, that aren't pleasant. And people are like, oh, okay, so I don't want to go there, or it's too hard. And what if I get injured? What if it doesn't work? And I always say to them, well, what if it does, first of all? And second of all, what is the flip side to not doing it? Think about that. If you don't get up and get to the gym, or if you don't improve your nutrition, what is the consequence of that? So which consequence are you more willing to live with? I know what it is for me. I'd rather risk a little bit of injury, and I push myself actually to limits that maybe others may not. But that's just me. I like to take calculated risks, and I know that with that comes the risk of injury. But I'm willing to take that risk. So you have to be ready to take on certain risk in order to get the results.
This is a really good conversation. And yeah, I think that you definitely push yourself, because I saw you made quarterfinals for CrossFit, which is not easy.
Yes.
One thing, it sounds to me like you're explaining first, second, and third order consequences. Are you familiar with that phrase?
Yes, I'm somewhat familiar. I'm not sure I could explain it as eloquently as probably you're about to, but yes.
So just for the listener, I love what you're saying, and this is a big thing I've been into lately, but first, second, third order consequences is like, what's the immediate thing that's going to happen? Then what's the secondary and tertiary thing that's going to happen? So generally, if we experience a negative primary consequence, then the second and third are actually positive. So let's say we show up and we go to the gym and we get injured. Okay, that sucks. We're out of the gym for a couple days. But we learned, number two, the second consequence is we learned what injured us. That's positive. Number three, we get to avoid that. That's positive, right? But if you never show up to the gym, you never go, that's your first consequence. Maybe it's positive because you don't experience immediate discomfort. But number two, you're continuing to decondition yourself. And number three, as you age, you're really apt for a low metabolism, no muscle, or even brittle bones that lead to fractures.
Right.
So do you want the immediate thing that's comfortable for long-term discomfort, or do you want the immediate thing that's maybe a little bit uncomfortable, but long-term you're going to be ultimately very, very comfortable?
Yeah, I think the problem is that not many people can see beyond that first consequence, right? They don't, because it's not there. The other two are not there yet. They don't reveal themselves until you take that first step. That's the thing. They only see that first step of it could be hard and it could be really uncomfortable, and not as many people are willing to do hard things, or they're not ready. They don't have enough courage to take on hard things. And I understand that. It's intimidating.
It is intimidating, but generally what I find is it's harder to think about it. It's harder before we do it. And then we get it done and we look back and we're like, that wasn't as bad as I thought. And I'm actually pretty proud of myself for doing it.
Absolutely. I'm just going through these sorts of conversations with my eldest daughter, who just moved out to college in California. And it's a huge mindset thing. And I do love to work with people on mindset. And it is the biggest thing I keep saying to her is, there's lots of things that we all need to do in our lives. But if we looked at the entire list of things that needs to happen, we'd never get any of it done. It'd be panic, fight or flight, overwhelmed. So look at the first thing. I mean, preferably prioritize, but look at the first thing and just deal with that. And once you've got past that first thing, then you move on to the next thing. And that's how you move forward.
and it gets easier. Like you get momentum and it gets way easier. I love that. I love that you talk to your daughter about that because she's going to be bulletproof. But I'm sure you talk to your clients about it too, right?
Yes.
And before we get into that, I want to know, okay, obviously you work with women 40, 50, I would imagine 60 and older, but what type of women are they? Like, do they want to lose weight? Do they want to gain muscle? What's your jam? What do you love to help with?
It's all types. I'd say the majority of women who want to work with me are looking to lose fat, because of the age group I'm in. I personally am in, and the age group I target. Women are going through perimenopause, menopause, and generally, you've seen it. The women who come to you are also in the same sort of space. It's been this slow creep of weight gain, which they think has happened in the last 6 months, but it's been this slow creep of declining lifestyle habits, a slow creep of the nutrition not really kind of being ideal, a bit more wine every day, that sort of thing. And so they have gained weight, and a lot of women are not like me in that they've not been athletes their entire adult life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they are looking primarily to lose fat. What, much to their dismay, sometimes I think I work with them with a priority on empowering them,
Yep.
making sure they understand the importance of being strong, and focusing on nutrition as performance fuel.
Love it.
So I try not to focus on, okay, we're going to get you to do a cut, or you're going to be in this calorie deficit and you're going to do this for 12 weeks. It's about, okay, what is going to be long-term sustainable for you, and how is this going to support your physical activity? Because that is the priority for me. And it does mean that some women don't work with me. They
Sure.
want to work with somebody who's going to help them lose body fat in 3 months. And I don't feel comfortable with that approach. I would rather, I come from a sports background, and I coached my Ironman athletes previously on race nutrition, and my certification is in sports nutrition. So I am much more coming from an angle of performance, eating for performance. And that is the women that I work with who are in perimenopause also get that treatment.
I love that. I think that long term, that's where everybody should be, is treating their body like a well-oiled machine, like an athlete, like whatever you want to call it. But say you have that lady that you just described that comes to you and she wants to lose 15 or 20 pounds of fat. Does she still accomplish that goal working with you?
Yes, absolutely. I think she'd probably achieve it faster with somebody who works more in the bodybuilding approach of nutrition, with kind of steeper caloric deficits. She absolutely does, though. I mean, the weight loss or body recomposition,
Yeah.
with me, is slower. I'll admit that. It's very much, I don't like people to be, for example, in a 400 to 500 calorie deficit daily. I think that is miserable. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's miserable. You're hangry, and everybody around you suffers. But your performance also suffers. I don't know how anyone can work out well and build muscle effectively when they're in a steep calorie deficit. Not to mention, when you're in perimenopause and your hormones are whacked, your mood is off the charts sometimes. And being hungry just doesn't actually help that at all. It makes it much worse, and I would rather not put women through that. So that's my approach. I think some women have had great success, even in perimenopause, with a real kind of cut phase, deficits of 400 plus calories. I think some people respond really well to that. But I don't feel comfortable working that way. But they get there. It just takes them a lot longer.
Yeah, for sure. But I'd actually argue that maybe it doesn't, because you're accomplishing two things at the same time. Whereas if somebody's in a big cut, they're only losing fat. So eventually, if they actually want to reach the end goal that you're kind of describing, once they lose the fat, they're going to then need to spend some time gaining more muscle, which adds to the time frame. Whereas you're killing two birds with one stone, you just kill those birds a little slower. That's a terrible analogy.
Yes. I love animals. I do. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I get the question all the time, I'm sure you do, which is, is it possible to build muscle and burn fat at the same time? And I say absolutely yes, but both results are slower and attenuated. At some point you hit a point where you can't build muscle effectively anymore because you're just not giving your body enough calories. Or as you're building muscle, you might need a little more energy. The BMR is going up, so you're not putting more calories in, so you don't have the energy to put the intensity into the workout that maybe you should in order to push yourself to that next level. So that's always my main focus is, do you have enough energy for the workouts? Are you seeing the gains in your lifting, in your CrossFit? Are you actually seeing the results there? Because if you're not getting stronger, then we need to reevaluate. It doesn't matter if you're losing body fat. Like if you're losing body fat, it's going, well, this is great. But if the performance is suffering, I like to, the red flags go up for me.
Yeah, I love that. This is interesting though. Like you're big on strength, and I know that CrossFit can build strength, but I think it builds strength slower than other modalities. And also, I told you we were going to talk about this in the beginning. My ladies that really know me are probably like, Joe, what is happening? Like, I know you like CrossFit, man, but you tell us that maybe there's a better option for us. And so just so you know, I'm really big on strength training for our ladies 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Yes, cardio is great, but I want to make sure that they're not wasting away at their muscle because we know at age 30, 40, 50, 60, you're doing that. But I want to hear your opinion. Why do you love CrossFit? I know why.
Interesting.
I know why I love it.
I could have such a long discussion about ways to build muscle and which is ideal. I don't think there is any one ideal way that you could say there is for everyone to build muscle. I think it is very individual. I think there are, the hypertrophy bodybuilding style of workouts is fantastically effective. I think it's really great for people who are intimidated by CrossFit, which many are, and who are looking for a less dynamic, ballistic form of lifting. They might feel it's safer. So I think those things, bodybuilding style of strength training has an edge over CrossFit for sure. And so that probably means in my age group, it is a more attractive way of strength building. It's less intimidating. The reason I love CrossFit is because, first of all, I just think it's super fun.
Yeah, same.
Super fun. The community is amazing. I have a really short attention span, short attention span. And the fact that even though it is progressive and there are things that you repeat each week, it is different. There is a difference to your workout. Every single day is slightly different. I mean, every week I have a snatch day, I have a clean and jerk day, I have a, deadlift day, but the AMRAP or whatever it is, the conditioning at the end is different.
Changes, yeah.
And I love that because if I don't have that, I will not stick with it. I just have too short attention span to go into, a Planet Fitness or whatever it is and do my upper body split or my lower body split and do basically the same thing every week, just increasing weights or whatever. What else do I love about CrossFit? So the thing, if we were looking at it from more of a science aging point of view, I like the fact that CrossFit with its more explosive based moves builds that kind of fast twitch power based strength, which sometimes you don't get in bodybuilding, or certainly not at some levels, because I think the focus tends to be more on like the 8 to 10 rep range because you're trying to build, muscle size, and the 3 to 5 rep range, which I really love. I love that range where you get to lift really heavy,
really be strong.
And test your limits in a different way. The burn thing is one, the sort of 3 rep max, 2 rep max builds that power, which is so crucial as we age. Getting out of a chair or off the toilet or whatever takes a huge burst of immediate power, which I think a lot of people don't realize. And that's what the CrossFit lifting builds on for me. And I feel more confident that when I get to my 80s, 90s, I'm going to be better able to get myself off the floor or up out of a chair or whatever it is. So those are the reasons. I mean, mostly because it's fun and I just love it.
Well, I mean, it's called functional fitness for a reason, right? It is either making you functional or keeping you functional, which I couldn't agree more on. The community's great. The Olympic lifts are absolutely my jam too. I love that. The thing that worries me, at least for the ladies that I work with, is a lot of times they've been sedentary for a really long time, or they don't have a lot of experience experience lifting,
Yeah.
and inside of boxes, so anybody that's not familiar, inside of CrossFit gyms, there's no process across the board, right?
Right.
You can go to a really, really amazing box and they can have great programming with like linear progressions on the strength movements, and then the Metcon is well thought out so you're not overdoing it. Or you can go somewhere where we talked about earlier and all they feed you is junk volume. And
Yeah.
so I think that part of the reason I stray away from it with our clients is because I can't keep an eye on what gym they're going to because they're all across
Right.
the country.
Right.
And it's like, hey,
Yeah.
I don't know if this is good or not. Like,
Yeah.
I like CrossFit and I know I'm smart about it, but you might not be, and your coach might not be.
Yeah, it's funny. I had this discussion with somebody online on my DMs
Oh
today
boy.
about, well, it was I'm so totally open to people changing my mind. I really am.
Sure.
But they were talking about how they tried CrossFit and they just found that they were ignored, especially because they were older. They were ignored in favor of the younger people at the box, or they weren't given a lot of kind of directional coaching. And I do think that can happen for sure. And I would be the first person to say somebody, go to visit the box. If you don't see the coach interacting with people or at the back of the class saying to an obvious beginner, oh, how about you try this? Then be very cautious. But having said that, I've been to a ton of CrossFit gyms. I traveled a lot with my elder daughter, who was a volleyball player, and we went to the US. Everywhere I went to the CrossFit gym there. And I've always had great experiences with people coming over to check that I knew what I was doing, giving me even coaching, even if I didn't ask for it. I'm happy to have people give me coaching. But I would argue, so the conversation I had with this person online was, I would argue that when you go into a gym, Planet Fitness, Gold, whoever it is, you will probably find a huge proportion of people who are just there doing their thing with no supervision either. And unlike your clients who have a lot of oversight and, they have a lot of guidance on how to execute, a squat properly or a dumbbell curl or whatever it is, there are people there who have looked up something on YouTube and they're following this thing on YouTube, but then nobody's watching them in the gym to make sure that they are in fact doing that move correctly. So I think the dangers could be similar in both populations. Now, CrossFit has the added risk of more ballistic movements.
Pistol squats.
The clean and the jerk, the snatch. I mean,
Sure.
I dislocated my shoulder doing a snatch balance, so it happens. And it was my fault because I actually had not practiced how to bail properly, right? I held on to it for a fraction too long and it took my shoulder with it. And that's my fault. But the point is, you need to learn how to do things. So I don't think either one is wrong. I think
No.
everybody could do CrossFit or functional fitness. I think everybody should do a bit of bodybuilding. I do mine at the end of my session in accessories. I think it's all good. It's just different.
I completely agree. And the same conversation goes with diets, right? I personally like people to eat what they like to eat.
Yep.
I don't want people to do keto if they love carbs. I don't want people to do paleo if they love having a donut on Saturdays.
Right.
And that can also fit with exercise, right? Like if you hate bodybuilding, because for a while I did, like I came from CrossFit and I could not wait the 2-minute rest time. It's like, I'm losing my damn mind. Like I cannot do this. If you hate it, don't do it. And if you love CrossFit, do it. But make sure, I think that the recovery conversation also comes into this. Like personally, I'm very similar to you, radically open-minded. If you want to change my mind, I'd love to learn. I think it's easier to overtrain in CrossFit.
Yes.
And then, so people really need to be cognizant of how much they're recovering. And I don't just mean sleep, but like what you just said, how much food are you eating? Are you fueling your body appropriately? Are you doing mobility? Are you sleeping enough? But if you can do that, girl, go do some damn CrossFit. I love it.
Yeah. And that takes experience too, right? You have to, it's all trial and error. I did not know how to fuel for CrossFit. I'd been fueling for Ironman for a couple of decades. And even then, I don't think I was doing a great job. I mean, one of the things I talk about a lot on my Instagram account is the change in my relationship with both food and my body, my body image. Even as an athlete, an Ironman athlete who was pretty competitive. I qualified for the World Championships twice in my age group. So it wasn't like I was an inexperienced or, amateur at this. I was constantly chasing, or in that mindset of how little can I get away with putting into my body to get me to the results that I want. not
Okay.
how can I optimize my performance. It's how
Yeah.
little I get away with, because I was surrounded by women who were 105 pounds, not built like me. Like, I have a wider build. These
Mhm.
endurance athletes are built differently. And when I started CrossFit, I realized very quickly, thankfully, because I have a really competitive spirit, I realized that if I was going to be competitive with these other women in my age group in CrossFit, I had to put on some serious muscle. I had to eat properly.
Yep.
And so I started I just said, forget it. If I put on weight, who cares? If I put on body fat, who cares? I need to reach that goal. I'm going to experiment. I'm going to see how it goes for a year. And if it works, I'll stick with it. And it did. I started eating more and I got stronger and I put on 5% body fat, but I look better to me. So,
Yeah.
I think it takes it takes a lot of experience. I mean, I was 52 when I came to this realization.
Yeah.
That's a lot of years of messing around with food. Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is you ate more food and you gained weight on the scale and you gained body fat, but you
Mhm.
actually became happier and more confident in yourself because of that.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
because I gained muscle, I gained a
yeah,
huge amount of muscle, at least 6 pounds of muscle.
that's a lot.
The scale says 5% more body fat but I was 14% as a triathlete. So I'm still only 19%,
Low.
but I gained 6 pounds, almost all of it, according to the metrics that I've had. Most of it is muscle. So, yeah.
So how do we get these women? Because for my audience, the scale means a lot, right?
Mhm.
The number on the scale generally going down to reach a certain number that they have in their
Mhm.
mind or that they were in high school or college or as an athlete. How do we break that? Or do we break that? What are your thoughts around it?
Joe, I don't know. If somebody had figured it out already, well, if there was a really good answer, then somebody would have figured it out, because I know that so many women who message me are still stuck on that number. And I've given lots of talks in places. I've spoken with people, clients. I've messaged people endlessly about this. I've posted about this, and people still are really fixated on weight. I think we just keep plugging away at getting the message out there of performance over aesthetics. That's kind of my primary message, as you know from food as well. Performance over aesthetics. I think the thing that will work for people, it certainly worked for me when I discovered CrossFit, is surround yourself with people who look differently to how you used to think you wanted to look. So
Mhm.
instead of, always instead of following people on Instagram who are models and wearing, who are 6 foot and wearing these beautiful clothes and have the little stick arms, surround yourself with CrossFit women. My idol when I was growing up was Elle Macpherson. I wanted to look like Elle Macpherson. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's a 6 foot tall Australian ex supermodel
Thin.
who has legs, like her legs probably come up to here on me. She's 6 foot tall. I'm 5'2". I'm never going to look like
It's
her
not going to
ever.
happen.
Now, the people I aspire to are CrossFit women, the elite CrossFit women who I may never look like, but they are thick. They're thick, powerful women. And that is the only type of physique that I want for myself. It's the stuff I look at every day. Even bodybuilding women, I don't relate to that very well. It doesn't, I have a lot of admiration for them, but it's not the physique I want. I like a fuller, thicker physique for myself. And so I try to focus on that. So I think that is a little bit of the answer of surrounding yourself with women who are empowered by their muscle, not controlled by it, not controlled by their bodies, but empowered by them.
I love that. And I can agree. I think that CrossFit look, whether you're talking about men or women, is far better than the bodybuilding look. Like they just have that powerful core, that functional look,
Yes.
you know? Yeah, I hear you there.
Yeah,
One,
the core thing is really funny, because there's a lot of women who've had children who message me and they say, I'm not boasting, but people message me about my abs, right? Oh
yeah,
my God, you're 54 and look at your abs, and have you had children? I'm like, yeah, I've had 3 children and one of them was a twin pregnancy, right? So my stomach was stretched out to here. I was a whale. And they said, well, how do you not have a soggy middle? I said, you know how? I filled it. I didn't try and reduce it. I filled it with really thick muscle from CrossFit.
yes.
In CrossFit, you use that core for everything and you use it really hard. And that's how I make it firm, not by trying to reduce it to a smaller waist size. My waist size is bigger than it used to be. It's, building it to be really thick. So filling the space with muscle is where it's at.
I love that. That is so good. One thing you said is you like to focus on performance over aesthetics. And I get that. I do too, right? It's better to be able to function and live a great life than to just look good. But I think it's more important to still focus on aesthetics rather than a scale goal, right? Because people can weigh the same exact weight and look completely differently. So if these women want to get to, I'm just going to pick a number, let's say 130 pounds, you have to understand what's going to happen. Like your body might not even be capable of getting to 130 pounds with your desired look, right? Because if you work so hard to do that and you get to 140, but the way that you lose the last 10 pounds is through muscle, promise when you get to 130, you're not going to be happy. You're just going to look like a smaller version of yourself. So instead, aiming for those aesthetic goals is great because now you have muscle on your body. And then, hey, maybe you're happy. Let's now search or strive for that performance goal next or at the same time.
Yeah, I agree with you. I am not a person who says I'm going to forget about looking good and just focus on performance. I am quite unequivocally straightforward in saying I care about the way I look. That's why I put makeup on for my workout. That's what I want to do. I wear booty shorts because I like the way they look on me, and I like to have muscle definition. It makes me feel good about myself. So I think it is a really valid goal, and there is nothing wrong with it as long as you don't let it control your ongoing ability to perform and build strength. To your point, if somebody is just hell-bent on losing a certain amount of weight, getting down to 125 or whatever they used to be in high school, you could be 125 and still not look great or not look how you want, because you're not building muscle. You're focused on fat loss. You've cut, you're on 1,200 calories a day or whatever it is you're eating, and it's just not feasible to build muscle. So I agree with you. I think people should care about the way they look.
Yeah, I love that. And I learned that not just from the clients we coach, but I don't know how much you know about my personal story. I was really skinny growing up, and then I entered college and I started drinking and partying, and I got fairly overweight. And the entire time, so I was 145 pounds, I went up to 225 and then I cut back down. But I went to 195 first. Like on my way to 225, I got to 195, and looking at Muscle and Fitness and looking at CrossFit and all these things, I was like, well, that's what Rich Froning weighs, and he's my height. Like if I get to 195, I'm going to look like Rich. And I got to 195 and I promise you I didn't look like Rich. And I was like, wow, there's something else here. And so I kept going up to 225, and yes, I was working out, but a lot of this was fat gain. Then I finally cut down and I reached 195. I look like Rich.
Right.
But you've got to fill your body with the right thing.
Right. Yes. Quality. I coach people on macros, and people say to me, well, what do you think about is a calorie thing? I said, calories are calories, carbs are carbs. You can get the same amount of energy, a certain number of grams of gummy bears than an apple or a banana or whatever. But what you have to think about is, how is this item serving my body? I think if you want to eat gummy bears before your workout, because that's what gives you the best boost for performance, then go for it. But don't use gummy bears as your primary source of carbohydrates for the entire day. Think about how it's going to serve your body. The gummy bears will give me a boost of energy for my workout, and then I'm going to just, eat my regular food for the rest of the day. Great. It's serving a purpose. It's serving your workout. It's not a bad food. Could you have something better like a banana that's also fast energy, gives you the potassium that you need? Then yes. That's the good question to ask yourself. How is this food serving my body? And it really is about finding that balance of quality nutrition that has all the micronutrients, because there's the macros, but then you have to think about the micronutrients. Is it giving you all the micronutrients that you could benefit from? And also, is it giving you pleasure? Because food should be enjoyable. So I'm with you on that you said that right at the beginning. I think it's, you need to eat for pleasure also, as long as it doesn't control you.
I love it. I love this whole conversation. This is a direction I haven't gone very much. So thanks for being the first to take that path with me. Deborah, I know that I know you've done seminars in the past. I know you were doing one-on-one coaching, but you're kind of making a change.
Mhm.
What's next for you and the people you help?
Well, I'm actually working on moving into the digital course space. And the primary reason I do love working one-on-one with people because I just love personal connection
Mhm.
and, having a visual on somebody because my calls are all on Zoom. I love having a personal contact and seeing people's body language and how they react to
Yep.
something. But I have, because I've built a bit of a larger following, I have had people ask me for help. So many people ask me for help. And it's very clear to me that a lot of people, one of the key issues is they just don't understand food. There is a huge lack of the fundamentals of food and nutrition and
Mhm.
macros that I want to help people with, but I can't reach enough people. So and there's a lot of people in my following who are also in different time zones. So having real-time conversations is very difficult. I've believe it or not, a huge number, not a huge number, but a good chunk of people who follow me in India.
Okay.
And I can't have a good conversation with them because of time differences. So I'm working on the first two courses that I'm building are Macros 101. So it
Sweet.
really is back to the basics. Here's what they are, here's what they do, here's how you track them. And then the other is I'm calling it Midlife Made Better.
Okay.
And that's the other thing that became very clear to me is that a lot of midlife women who are going through their peri, menopausal or postmenopausal, they don't understand the fundamentals they don't understand what to address in trying to make their midlife experience better. They're looking for, what supplement should I take or what diet should I try or what hack can I use
Mhm.
to lose the weight, feel better. And my response to them is always, you need to fix the fundamentals first. None of these hormone therapies, supplements, pills, whatever, none of them are going to work or they're not going to mask a lack of attention to the fundamentals.
Yep.
So it's going to be a step-by-step guide, basically, hand-holding guide of here's how you do it. The pillars, the fundamentals. This is what going to take you step by step through that and help them track their habits as well. So that's what I like to focus on is actually the habits, building the habits, both in nutrition and in lifestyle.
I love that. And so your courses are basically going to give people the foundational things that every single person needs.
Yes.
And I love that you said like, hey, your HRT isn't going to work if the things that come before that aren't working or aren't in place. Like
Yeah.
that's
It
very, very
well,
similar to what we talk to our clients about.
yeah, I mean, I think Aisha, I mean, it's obviously the conversation of the moment in this age group,
Right.
right? Is hormone replacement therapy, or technically we're supposed to call it hormone therapy. I don't know. I
I
think it
don't
can be
care.
incredibly helpful in that people know that they need to move more, they need to eat better, they need to do their strength training, they need to do some cardio of some sort, but they just can't because they are so sleep deprived or exhausted from the hot flashes waking them up in the middle of the night or whatever sleeplessness, whatever it's caused by, that they can't even do any of those things. So I think it can be really helpful. But the problem is you get on, if you take the hormone therapy and then you start to feel better, you don't have any of these things in place. You don't have the knowledge of how to do that, or you haven't built any of the habits. And having those habits in place can actually concurrently support the hormone therapy. They can both happen at once.
Yeah, that's a good correction. I should reword that. Like, yeah, HRT is going to work. It's going to change your quality of life and a lot of things, but HRT is not going to create your weight loss unless you're
No,
doing those other
no,
things.
not at
Yeah,
all. Yeah,
yeah, I
not at
love it.
all. In fact, I think you've probably heard this a lot is, oh, maybe if I took some hormone therapy, I'll lose the weight or lose it faster. And it's a huge shock to people that it doesn't magically happen. You
No.
still have to go to the gym. You still have to stop drinking the 2 glasses of wine a night and, eating a half a cheese board every day. You need to do the things differently
Yeah.
for it to work. Yeah.
I love it. That's great. We have our differences. We have a lot of similarities. Deborah, thank you for spending the last close to an hour with me. If anybody wants to go and see just how strong you are or learn a little bit more from you, where can they find you?
I'm primarily on Instagram. I tried TikTok, it's not for me. So it's Stronger Movement. So that's STRONGR, no E, underscore movement. And I have a website, stronger.ca, which I'm in the middle of revising to get the digital courses on there. But Instagram is the primary vehicle they can find me on.
Awesome. Deborah, thank you so much for today.
Thank you, Joe. I'm honored that you would have me on your podcast.